Nitro Fieldhouse presents the Balto Revue with your hosts, Cladworthy, Balto exclamation point, and me, Ben Yan. Tonight's special guest, John Lundbom. Enjoy the show.
Welcome. I love that pic. I love that pic.
Is that a painting or a sculpture?
I love that Mr. Buddy's in there.
Yeah.
He snuck in there.
But that's not a photograph, is it?
Yeah, it's a photograph.
It is? It doesn't look real.
And with Laura having the finger up your nose.
Yeah.
Happy.
That's my wife, by the way. It's not the last time she picked my nose.
Happy birthday to Laura.
Happy birthday, Lars.
I love that shirt too. Do you remember those? Those are like the worst shirts we could find at the thrift store.
Yeah.
They were just awful. And
Too legit to quit. And what was the other one?
I don't remember, but we used them for a Poop Sticks video. The
Right.
Poop Sticks band, Jimmy Pants. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jimmy Pants.
Yeah, we were gonna record that outside, but you were too nervous that people would not like two skinny white boys wearing these rap shirts.
Those shirts were but we bought them because they were so cheesy. They were just awful. But yeah, that video, you can see that video on my YouTube page, the Balto exclamation point YouTube. Jim, looking nice. I like that
thank
suit,
you,
dude.
Thank you. You know, we just celebrated the 4th, so I haven't really changed. I haven't showered since then. I've been in this suit the whole time.
Do you actually have the pants on, or is it just waist up?
No, it's all business up top in the torso area.
Yeah.
Nothing below.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, man, I'm super excited for this show tonight. We, as you heard, we have John Lundbom coming on to play a little bit. It's going to be awesome. And we have a new Jimmy Phone segment, another
of course
voice message. And my brain doesn't work right anymore. I misremember things all the time. I don't remember a lot of college for obvious reasons. And I totally miscredited the musicians on this your birthday present track CD text message thing. So
it's snowing and I look like I'm pooping.
Yeah, I added the credits in there. So let's roll that and you can see who's in the band.
Yeah, let's get to it.
A twin din diddle diddle dee. A twin din diddle 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 dee. Baby maggots sprawling in and out of diarrhea poop. Diarrhea poop. Electronic robot. I am a friendly robot.
Yeah.
Is that the end?
I love the Merle Haggard. It's not the end of the track. There's like,
Yeah, I never know when it ends.
man, there's at least like 20 more messages.
Yeah. Yeah, we add one for people who don't know. We add a new one with each new episode. So
our
you gotta stay tuned to see them all.
Every Balto Revue episode is just going to keep getting longer because that segment is just going to grow every time.
Yeah, it's going to get to the point where it's going to fill the entire show time.
Yeah, it'll just be the track.
Yeah.
And I love the Merle Haggard thing because
very fitting for tonight's show, right?
Yeah, we got John on, who's Yeah, the guitar player in Bryan and the Haggards, my avant country jazz band. And we're going to play a live concert vid from a gig. This is early. Well, I don't remember when it was because my brain doesn't work, but it was at this club, Goodbye Blue Monday in Bushwick. And it was like,
It closed. Did it close down?
I think so, yeah. But the cool thing about how to get a gig there was you had to go through their MySpace page. You had to like send a MySpace message to the club and give them like a bunch of dates, I think, or maybe you just pick a date and they would write back, "You're cool, you can have the date." But that's how you got the gigs at Goodbye Blue Monday. So can we watch this Haggards clip, because I'm excited. Yeah, so that's the tune that we end with on most. Actually, we came up with like a couple, but that was our closer. And the idea behind that tune was to keep playing it as long as we possibly could until either the club owner like started yelling at us or people started throwing stuff.
Did either ever happen?
Uh, People definitely would get annoyed, I think, at how. I mean, because it's a dissonant band to begin with, so just listening to that keep going.
Let's talk a little bit about how that band formed. If I remember correctly, you just really got into Merle Haggard, wanted to do kind of a jazz spin on it, and the play you approached the players about it, and they said, "Well, if you transcribe all the music, we'll do it." And then you've been doing it for years now, right?
That was John. So John Lundbom, our guest tonight, has a band called Big Five Chord, and he had a gig coming up at the Knitting Factory, and he'd recently given me this CD compilation that a friend of his made of the best of Merle Haggard, like the old stuff, beautiful. And like I freaked out when I listened to it. I like fell in love with this music, and I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. And I was saying to John, we got to play this music, man. And he had this gig coming up, Knitting Factory, and he said, if you transcribe all those tunes, we'll just do Merle Haggard for the gig. And the tunes are relatively easy. They're like all 3-chord basic country songs. So that's what I did. I transcribed a bunch of tunes, and we played it on the gig, and like everyone in the band like was just smiling, like had so much fun. It was like this. I couldn't believe how fun it was to play that music. And that's
were you playing them straight ahead at the beginning, and did they become more experimental as you went along?
We'd always just play the head kind of normal and just freak out. And so I basically stole John's band. I used the same band that we had already developed this chemistry with, and just renamed it Bryan and the Haggards, and took all the credit and booked my gigs. But yeah, and we had a good time, man. It was fun.
Great.
So
I think people are probably getting pretty anxious to see John.
I think we made him wait long enough. So without further ado, let's hear from John.
I like chewing chocolate candy bars. I like chewing chocolate candy bars.
Também gosto de chocolate.
I like chewing chocolate candy bars.
Chocolate bem gostosa.
Gostoso, gringo.
Yeah, man. Woo!
Woo!
Super cool, dude.
Thanks, John.
Awesome. I love the sound. That sound, man. Can you, once you get your mic, can you tell us a little bit about how you're getting that like crazy ass guitar sound going?
Yeah, sure. Hey, guys, thanks so much for having me. This is a blast. I'm a big Balto Revue fan and happy to be here.
Great. Good to have you.
So, a couple months ago, I read about this new guitar. I'm not a big, like, crazy guitar pedal sound guy. I use pedals, but not like for the crazy sound bit of it. But I read about this pedal out of Australia called the Air Trash that was rumored to be the worst pedal ever made, like the worst sounding pedal ever made. And I had to get one. And so that was a little Air Trash Sonata for y'all.
I did.
Is it the guitar equivalent to the Balto saxophone?
Not dissimilar. This is the Air Trash from Metaverse.
I think you need a sponsorship, man. Endorsement.
I was lucky to get one for $100, so I'm happy.
It sounded great, man.
Would it be possible to put bass strings on a guitar?
It's possible. I don't know if it would work terribly well.
Yeah.
Just the holes and the equipment is not really built for it. But
Well, you could use toilet paper or something, right, to modify it.
I do have a baritone guitar I use quite a lot, so I guess I could put the treble like tenor strings on a baritone guitar and
There you go.
toilet paper and yeah.
There you go.
I feel like Eugene Chadbourne had to have tried that, right?
Well, to quote Eugene Chadbourne, you play electric rake once, and it's all people ever talk about.
Oh my God, John, do you remember when we made the Baltbom album?
I do, yeah.
It's just Balto and guitar, and
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, man. That
was one of my first trips back up to New York after I moved down to Austin, Texas, and Bryan and I hung out and had a good time just laying down some track.
We just rattled off like tune after tune, man. We were feeling it. Anyway, do you remember the trailer I made for us?
Yes, I do.
We gotta watch it. We gotta watch this real quick.
Oh, you're playing this?
Yeah. Classic.
Fantastic.
I needed more video of you because it's just all me. Like there's I had pictures I had taken of you. My favorite.
You got pictures ranging from me at my thinnest to me at my heaviest over the course of my life. It's pretty impressive, man.
In the one video.
Yeah, that one video.
The picture.
And you can still purchase that album, right?
Oh yeah, it's on my.
Is it still $5?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, we could bring that down.
That picture I took of you where you're like, right? I took that to photography class, and my teacher is like, oh man, this is a killer shot, and I'm like, he's actually yawning. And my teacher got really pissed off. He's like, don't ever tell anyone that. You're ruining the photo. He's like, I thought it was like this. Yeah, the yawning pic.
Yawning, yeah.
We have a question written in from Flip Wilson. I don't know if that's a real name or not.
Sounds unlikely.
It wants to know the origin of the Big Five chord band. Like, when you started it? Because I wasn't in it at the beginning. Who was in the?
No, you weren't living in New York at the time.
Yeah.
So I moved to New York from after living in Chicago, where I knew Bryan, on September 9th, 2001. So 2 days before 9/11, and I lived there for about a year, and then I went to grad school. Started going to the Manhattan School of Music, and I dropped out after a semester because grad school. And I thought, well, if I'm going to start, playing music, I mean, I could wait to get hired, or I could hang out at jam sessions, or I could just put a band together and make a record and start trying to book some gigs. So I put together with best friends, Arabagan, and I met Mappa at that point, and my favorite drummer, Justin Walkie, who I met at Manhattan School of Music. And Dom Lally was playing tenor, who I also knew from Manhattan School of Music, who is definitely one of the more famous of my friends now. He's in a big band called Big Gigantic. That's very popular with the kids. And yeah, we just started rehearsing, and I wrote a ton of music, and then we made a record. And I decided to call the record Big Five Chord after a dumb joke. And yeah, and then I started booking some gigs. I think the first Big Five Chord gig we ever booked was at the Knitting Factory, which was for like a Big Five Chord release. And so we just called it John Lundbom and Big Five Chord. And that was like probably 2002.
Yeah.
Maybe 2003.
How many albums do you have under Big Five Chord so far?
I think it's 9 releases, but it's a little misleading because we did do 4 EPs that were collected as a box set. So it kind of depends how you count it.
Liver Evil.
Well, Liver Evil is a 2 CD set, but then we did this series of EPs.
Oh, the EPs. Yeah.
16, yeah.
Cool. What's the joke behind the name of the band?
So it's a couple things. I mean, one is that Frank Zappa said the 5 chord is the most hateful sound in music. The idea of like the 5 chord being absolute tension to the 1 chord being absolute release. He just found that progression like really hateful and like predictable because there's nothing else it can do. So I like that idea, and I like the idea of sort of having a band where like tension was the goal, and so it was the 5 chord. And then also, I was playing in this rock band at the time, and the singer-songwriter who wrote the music for the rock band never ever wrote 5 ones. He always wrote 4 ones. And so I think we made a joke that he should call his band Big 4 Chord. And then but then it was like, oh, actually I should call my band Big 5 Chord. That makes a lot more sense. I'll also mention that one of my all-time favorite bands is called Big Lazy. And I don't think I stole the big from them, but because of how much I love them, it might have happened. So Steve, in the unlikely event you're watching this, I apologize. But he also hates the big in their band name. They were originally called Lazy Boy, and then they got a lawsuit.
Can you talk about like what you're up to now? Because you've left New York and relocated in Austin, but you have a bunch of.
Yeah, we've been in Austin, Texas about 5-6 years now. It's great. Life's great. No complaints. I do play a bit on the scene here, less jazz. I do a lot of improvised music. Occasionally I put on a Big 5 chord style gig, or a few years ago I did a live quartet album with some Big 5 chord music and some sort of more recovery material, some Ornette and some Schofield stuff that we put out that was great. It's called Live at Monk's, if you want to check that out, on Monk's Live record label. I also play more and more bluegrass these days. I'd say actually most of what I do these days is play bluegrass banjo. I work with the Central Texas Bluegrass Association. I was on the board until recently. I was running their jam session until the current times.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I put out 2 albums last year. One with Big 5 Chord, and one that was a collaboration with this Balto exclamation point guy called Beats by Balto Volume 1, and Balto and I have sort of taken this COVID time to start working on Beats by Balto Volume 2. So, God willing, that'll be out if not later this year, then early next year.
It's coming. It's coming, man.
Did you appreciate country music early in your life, or was that later on?
No, not at all. So Bryan mentioned a little bit the origin story of the Haggards. My part of it that I left out is I was not into country music at all. I was raised on rock and roll, and while my parents were devotees of Little Feat and used to follow Little Feat in concert the same way some people follow the Grateful Dead, like that was as far towards Southern rock or country as I got. I was actually on tour with that rock band I mentioned, and we were staying with a friend in DC, and the friend, his boyfriend was hanging out with us, and we just sort of, stayed up till like 3 a.m. morning drinking after the gig. And I got to talking to Ben, the boyfriend, and he said that growing up as a gay kid in West Virginia in a trailer park, the only thing that stopped him from killing himself was the music of Merle Haggard. And I said, "Oh, I've never heard Merle Haggard." And so I woke up in the morning, to drive on to the next gig, and there was a CD there that he had made for me after we went to bed, a mixtape of like Merle Haggard's career in chronological order. And of course, I'm just like, "Oh my God, this is the best shit!" Like, "Oh my God, it's incredible." And so I gave it to Bryan, and Bryan said it sounded like home. And then Bryan started bringing Swinging Doors around every jam session we played, and then said, "Can we play Swinging Doors at the Knitting Factory?" And I said, "Well, transcribe 6 more, and we'll play nothing but." So no, I was not raised on country music, but now it is like, it's weird. I mean, it's like,
but the older stuff.
Carpetbagger.
Yeah, the Merle stuff, the first, I think, official Bryan and the Haggards gig. Well, yeah, it was definitely the first gig we played was at Rose. Like there was a club in, I think, Williamsburg.
Oh yeah.
Called
Live at Rose.
Live at Rose, and they didn't know we were a country band. Like a friend of mine who was booking, Rick Parker, I think it was Rick was booking that gig, and he needed a band, and asked me if I wanted to do it, and I did say, like, "Can I do this? Can I do the Merle Haggard band?" Because I didn't want to. And he was like, "Yeah, whatever, man, whatever." So like, but the club owner had no idea that we were just going to show up and play Merle Haggard tunes. So like, I think we probably started with Silver Wings, and then we started playing Sing a Sad Song, and the lady yells across the club, "Stop depressing everyone." we were just in it. It was great. And that was
what did you do at that point?
Just kept playing. Like we played country music.
Yeah, we slowed it down a notch.
Yeah, then we played a ballad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did people warm up to it pretty quickly? I mean, maybe not that night necessarily, but as you did more and more shows.
It's funny. One thing that Big Five Chord was really actively working on when sort of the Haggards thing happened was sort of playing out of sync in a way to create like 3-dimensional depth to the music. And when the Haggards came along, that kind of became like playing like we're drunk, and like especially the bass and drums like do not sync up. Like you guys need to be playing a part in a way that makes people question whether or not you guys know what you're doing. So actually my now wife, the first gig time she heard me play music was at Goodbye Blue Monday with the Haggards. And she came to the gig, and I was like, just listen, like it might sound bad. It might not sound like we know what we're doing, but just it's on purpose, and just trying to be cool. But she was like, "No, like I totally got it. Like especially you guys look like you're having a blast, and everything makes sense, and it's fun, and it's cool, and like I think people get it."
And I would play when I'd play that music for my family, they would just be like, "Oh my God, Bryan, this is awful. Why are you doing this?" Especially the first Balto hip hop record. I remember putting that on around Christmas time. And they were just like, "Oh my God, what is this? Please turn it off."
But I think when I play jazz for civilians, for non-jazz people, they don't know what the fuck's going on. Like the idea that you're playing this popular tune melody from 100 years ago that they've never heard before, and then you're expected to understand like that you're sort of playing variations on it or messing with it in certain ways. Like whether or not they know Swinging Doors, like you hear even a jazz band play Swinging Doors, you know what the fuck is going on. And then you can hear when it deviates from that. So, I mean, it almost like delivers, no matter how weird it is, like it delivers more of like what jazz is supposed to deliver than like the standard jazz experience, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Balto told me once that your favorite guitar solo is from a Merle Haggard tune. And I forget.
I don't know about favorite. I mean, but there's
That's
what you said that one in particular. Yeah, it's on Down Every Room. Right?
You said it was the best guitar solo you ever heard when you said
Yeah,
it
I
to
say
me.
things like that all the time. It's the B bender. He's got
Yeah.
it's the B bender solo. Yeah.
What do you appreciate so much about those really simplistic solos in country music?
It's not dissimilar to early jazz. Like
Mm.
in the early days of recording, I mean, not even early, like up until, I mean, God, the late 70s. I mean, you had one take pretty much, and there was not really multi-tracking, and you wanted your 8 bars or your 4 bars, or in the case of that B bender solo, your 2 bars, you have to communicate perfection. You have to communicate everything you can. And the other thing about recording is people on recordings never sound as good as they are in real life. And for someone to sound that good in the 4 bars that they were given on a recording, I mean, that's an astonishingly good player. That being said, part of what impressed me about that solo, once I knew what a B bender was less impressive. Not that it wasn't impressive. It's just like, oh, that's how he's doing it. Like, that's why I can't do it.
Explain that. What is a B bender?
A B bender is a mechanism that sort of lives over here and goes up through the neck of the guitar, so that essentially you yank on your guitar and it pulls this up, and when it does, it changes the pitch of the B string.
Oh.
So that solo is something like, oh boy, not gonna work. But it's the only way you can do it without a B bender is by pre-bending the string perfectly. But that's not what he's doing. He's playing the note and then yanking on it like that.
Total cheating.
Yeah, it's not cheating. It's cool.
It's cool.
I just
but
didn't know about it.
when you said it was the greatest guitar solo you ever heard, you were assuming that he was starting the note bent at a bent position and playing the note and releasing, right?
It's an astonishing guitar solo no matter what, but the technical achievement is apparently more mechanical than finger-based.
Cool. This is a great show. Did Sue Nevins write in? Because I'm not looking at the Zoom chat.
Sue.
Oh, yes.
Sue. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ben-Yan.
Well, both Sue Nivens and Nate both mentioned that they love the air trash. So you might have a couple new converts.
And also, Sue was wondering why John never returned the contracts and waivers.
Dave wrote in, he wants to know John's favorite Balto Revue episode.
The first one, Raw.
Cool. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Raw dogging it.
Sweet.
Until this one, right?
I'm curious what guests you have coming up next. You guys kept saying the name Nate, and I was curious which of our Nate friends it is.
Nate Diana, who's a friend of mine, and he's a sculptor, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get him in 2 weeks, and he's going to live sculpt something in his shop. We're ironing out the contract, and hopefully we're going to make it happen. Yeah. But hopefully it's going to happen. But yeah, that would be super cool. So cool. This is a great show, guys. Thank you, John, for being with us.
Thank you guys for having me. This is a blast.
It was a lot of fun. And
For sure.
We'll catch everybody on the next one.
All right. See you guys.
Have a good night.
Peace.